What's up guys, David here and welcome to the Fit Pro Daily. This week is a different one. We're going to look at how to create and smash really big goals. Now the last year and a half has been tough for a number of reasons, okay? And this episode, I think in particular, is one of those that's going to relight the fire and get things moving again, because there's points in our life, points in our career, points in our journey where things get in the way and we almost put the brakes and we kind of stop in our tracks, and everything we had planned or these big ambitions that we had suddenly just stop. So what we're going to talk about today on today's guest interview with Ben is how to really set these big goals so you can really start moving your fitness business forward. But before we do dive into today's episode, if you haven't already subscribed to the Facebook page or joined the Facebook page, then simply head over to Facebook, search FitPro Lead Gen with Dave, request to join the group, and in here you'll get access to guides, downloads, support, information, guest interviews, and so much more. Anyway, let's dive into this week's guest interview. Good day, everybody, and welcome to this week's guest interview. This week we have Ben Owen, all the way from beautiful North Wales, my home. Ben, how are things?
I'm good. It is beautiful up here today as well. Thank goodness. I went for a run around the Great Orme this morning, and it was sunny, and just looking forward to being interviewed by you, Dave. Actually, I'm looking forward to sharing some stuff with your audience.
It's a strange place, North Wales. For people that haven't really been to North Wales, you can go to Anglesey, an island where it's always sunny. You can go to Llandudno, close to where Ben lives, and it's kind of sunny a lot of the time. But where I'm from, closer to Snowdon itself, it always rains. So yeah, I think Ben's in a nice part of North Wales where it's not as rainy.
It's super rural. At the end of the day, it's super like back. And that's going into the conversation we have today. Like I own a gym in North Wales, probably one of the biggest body transformation gyms in the area, probably in North Wales. And we've had huge success, even though we've only got a town of say 50,000 people. And it's what's been a big driver for me in my 20s to create a gym that was massively successful in a fairly kind of backward area.
Okay, so the way we start these usually is always finding out about how you got started in the fitness industry. So I know, because we've spoken before, but tell everyone else, people that are watching this who maybe they're starting their own journey and they're looking at you now, Googling you and seeing your studio. How did you get started in the fitness industry?
Yeah, so I've always been involved in fitness. So I started personal training really early. I was actually training people from training my friends on the beach when I was 16 years old. I had an international track athletics career, so I ran 400 and 800 for Wales for quite a few years. And then as I was doing all that, I was learning how to be a coach. So I was learning about Olympic lifting and learning about weights and training people. And I actually got a mentor when I was in university, a guy called James Taylor, and he has Superstars Wales, which is a like a PPA cover business in your neck of the woods, actually, David. He runs it out. He did run out of the Bay, and he just started teaching me about personal development. He introduced me to Tony Robbins, and he was kind of one of my first ever mentors, really. And I just realized that if I was a personal trainer, I'd get to work with people like this.
Mm.
I was like, oh my God, if I'm a personal trainer and I can work alongside people, I can pick their brains, I can learn from them. And I was very lucky that, like, first of all, I got paid for my personal training I did with James, but he taught me so much. I'd go around his house, I'd help him with his diet, but he also taught me loads about business. And he had a very successful business that it absolutely exploded in the Southwest. Anyway, when I came back to North Wales, as you know, David, how old are you? Your 30s? In your 30s?
31 now.
Yeah. So like when
Getting
we were like early 20s, there wasn't any provision really for body transformation in North Wales. There wasn't any gym that specifically focused on how to get a body transformation. And I opened a boot camp, and it was kind of quote unquote overnight success. I did like a seminar, and at the time, Facebook events were a new thing on Facebook, and you invited people to events and they actually showed up. And I put this event where I said, listen, I'm going to share everything I know about training, about diet, and about how I've helped people in the past get body transformations. And I thought like 10, 15 people were going to show up, and we had like 70 people in the room. And this is in the local college. I'd never done a speaking session before. I'd never ever spoken in front of a group before. And I'd actually remember walking out in front of 70 people, and I like had chalk mouth. You know, when you're nervous, that you're so nervous that I sort of clammed up, had chalk mouth, and I just shared everything I knew. I literally went through training, I went through nutrition, I just went through. I was working with Phil Richards at the time, so I had some radical nutritional strategies going on, and people just bought into this kind of idea that health can be something you can pursue at the highest level. And so opened the boot camp, and it grew month on month for the next couple of years. Really, it went from a 30 people in the first ever session, and now we typically run between 250 and 300 people a day through our camps, and it's still growing.
Nice, nice, nice. And from what I gather, you had a previous studio and then you've scaled up and you've scaled up again. Have you? Have you gone through 2 or 3 studios to get to where you are
Yeah,
now?
no, first of all, I tried the kind of geographic growth. I tried to have multiple boot camps in different areas around down the A55. I found that particularly troublesome the way I was doing it at the time. I always found that you'd build a little community in a different area, and the trainer would be the person that they were loyal to. So the trainer would often see the pound signs and then try and take the group from you. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to just bring it all under one roof. And we had our first facility, which was like 1,400 square foot, great little facility. And then we moved into this one, which is 12,000 square foot, about 4 years ago, 5 years ago now. So yeah, it's been a huge, going from when you're at outdoor boot camp, it's such a high profit margin, and then you have your first studio, which is generally quite small. That was, like super high profit margin, and then at the same time, when you scale up to this size, it's a big monster to run every single day and open the doors and service. But yeah, it's just been a great challenge.
Cool. Okay, so everyone knows your backstory. They kind of know where you are now. And now they're looking at the title of this episode, which is creating really big goals. What is a really big goal? Because for some, I'm guessing it is, like you say, moving to that first studio. Some, it might be to get to 300 clients. For others, it could be to open 2 or 3 locations. How would you best describe a really big goal for people who are kind of like unsure?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so there's two things that I like. I've been currently run 2 businesses. I have Fast Way to Fitness, and I have the Awaken Man. And the Awaken Man is helping men create literally huge goals that they have to step it up in order to achieve them. I'm doing it myself every single day. The big one with the fitness goal, especially with the fitness business, it was where my mindset massively changed. Is that I realized that my goal for Fast Way to Fitness was never to compete with Joe Blogs down the road, who's my competition, or the 5 gyms that have sprung up in the last 2 years. It's never been to compete with that. My goal for Fast Way to Fitness is to compete with Netflix and Amazon Prime for people's attention, real estate, and their energy. So at the end of the day, when someone goes home, I've got to make my gym that exciting to come to that they're going to choose my gym over sitting down and watching telly. I've got to make my gym so exciting and welcoming and attractive to someone who's overweight that they'll choose me over the couch. And that goal is massive. I want to be able to say that I'm going to compete with Netflix over my lifetime. So if there's a Fast Way to Fitness in your town, it's a worthwhile place to go and get fit instead of choosing comfort. And that's what my massive goal is for Fast Way to Fitness, and it always has been, to compete with the things that are stopping people from training. That makes sense?
So for people listening then, and you're thinking, this guy's a bit crazy. There's no way he could potentially compete with Netflix or, like you say, Amazon Prime for watching it stuff. And they're just like, those goals are too unrealistic. Is it like a mindset trick, or are people playing too small? What is it that you would say that they have to have that kind of thought to be able to really push on with their business?
Yeah, well, I think this is really important for a lot of the guys listening. And I was speaking to someone the other day, and he said that he was struggling to acquire staff, and I asked him about his vision for his business, and he was talking about his vision for his business, and even when he was explaining to me about his vision, he was like, is demotivated. Oh yeah, I'm just trying to make my, I'm trying to get this much to break even this month, and I was like, I said, oh, you don't even sound inspired about your goal. So how do you expect someone to come and join you and be inspired? And he was like, oh my god, and he had a massive breakthrough on a call. And that one of the things is his vision wasn't big enough that someone else could join him and see a space for them to grow in that business. So that's why it's important. And like when we've got like 4 Kickstarters, so the government at the moment are paying. This is something you definitely need to get onto as well. We've got 4 amazing young staff at the moment between 16 and 24, and they've come in and they're being paid to kind of be part of the business by the government, and they are so inspired because of what we're trying to achieve that they are now seeing a huge potential career because we've got such a big vision. And like we want to go, we want to grow, we want to expand, we want to develop, so they can see themselves with space to kind of ascend through the business. And so the whole point of having that big goal, yeah, absolutely, if you ever hit it, fantastic, but what it's doing, it's going to make you think 10 times bigger than you're currently thinking, and that's where you need to be as the head of the company.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's a valid point, especially when you're sitting like in a consultation with a prospective client and you know you need to make that sale. So you get them properly excited about the results that they're going to achieve with you. That's motivating them, that's getting them sold. But if you don't have the same vision for your business when it comes to staff or keeping clients for the long term, then you need to almost interview yourself, yeah, to kind of say,
Yeah, it's like
what is it you really want to achieve? Yeah.
yeah, it's an integrity gap. Like I remember there's one girl that came into our gym, like um she said, like, you're never going to get me to do this, you're never going to get me to do that, you'll never see me doing this, like climbing Snowdon, or you'll never see me posing in a bikini shot. And like she's done all those things, and I sat with her the other week and I said to her, do you remember that impossible goal we talked about when you first came through the door and you said you'll never? I was like, you know what, I said her name's Zoe, she's all over our social media. You've achieved all those things now, what's next for you? And it's like, we do that with clients all the time, but we've got to stay in integrity and have that for our own business. Like, what's the impossible vision, or seemingly impossible vision? So we keep pushing forwards. And I feel that I'm at my best when I'm doing that.
Hmm.
When I'm pushing into something that is seeming impossible, and I have to go through the uncomfortable feelings of doubt. I think that's the whole point of having a business and having a vision for this. So yeah, it's really important.
Because listening to something yesterday and they were talking about the difference between an impossible long-term, like almost ridiculous goal and super short, easy, smashable goals. And this guy was doing super short, smashable goals that weren't hard, but he'd do that goal and then he'd have 2 or 3 weeks off, maybe a month off, and then move on to the next one. And he wasn't really going anywhere because the goals were so small, they were so easy to hit. It wasn't almost worth the effort to hit it. But when it's so massive, it's so life-changing, it's going to make such a big difference, and it seems almost impossible. There is only one direction that you can keep going, which is always up to try and strive to hit that mark.
Yeah, and that's something that we're both coached by Yassine. Like Yassine is amazing at doing that. He sits, like he stands in a future that I've disclosed to him that I want to achieve, and he just points out where I'm showing up different to how I need to show up in order to get there. And so even like when sometimes I'll ask a question and he'll say, "Can you see where that question isn't the question that someone who is achieving what you want to achieve?" You're laughing because you probably had the same thing. It's like he said, the person that is achieving the goal that you've got isn't asking that question, Ben. They're not concerning themselves with that kind of minutia. They're asking a much, much bigger question, or solving a much, much bigger, or creating a bigger project. And I've noticed that when I I'm not clear on what I want to achieve. I get caught up in the minutiae of the day-to-day crap that just doesn't get me anywhere.
Mm.
In the Awakened Man, we talk about kind of your boulders, your rocks, your pebbles, and then the sand. And if you're not clear on what the big rocks are, you do get caught up in the sand. And it's like I've seen that in myself so many times.
Okay, so let's carry on with the title. We've talked about setting really big, massive goals, and then we've named it through your thoughts, actions, and behaviors. So let's start with thoughts. You've got this massive goal. How is your thoughts potentially going to stop you, or how are your thoughts potentially going to action you to be able to achieve these things?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think the biggest one for me is getting around people that or just actually just listening to people that think really, really, really big. And that's something I realized that I did, over the last couple of years. I was like, um, when I thought really, really big about where the gym could be or how it was going to grow, it happened. I'm like, it sounds like kind of it's very self fulfilling. If you think that the gym's going to be 100 people paying £100, that's what your target will be. But then if you set yourself this like really, really scary, like, oh, okay, well, it's going to be 400 people every single day coming through the doors. You're going to have an average client value of like £130 a month, £150. That's what will happen, and that's what you'll start to think about. And I think it was your reticular activating system picks up on the things that will help move the needle. And so, what I think is really important is the practice of thinking bigger about your business, and it's something that I was in a mastermind with a guy called Dan Bradbury, and like Dan followed a lot of I forget the name of the mentor that he follows. Anyway, but he said you have thinking time every single day, and as an MD or as a business owner, your job is you're paid to think. Now, like you would go and work on, like most PTs work on their body, most of the free time they've got. Where actually they should be working on their mind. They should be working on the thing that's actually going to make them. And most, you've heard it. You must have heard it yourself, Dave, as well. Loads of PT thinking, if I haven't got a great body, I can't be a great gym owner or business owner, which is absolute bullshit. I've seen some fantastic gyms, and the owners are not even in shape. And that's the thing, is like a gym is a business like any other business. You don't have to have a phenomenal body to own a great gym. But the thing is that most PTs go to work on their body to make sure that that's in line with what they're actually trying to sell. When in fact, if they stopped and trained themselves to think every single day, think bigger about the business, they would see that there was a lot of growth there. Does that make sense? And I realized that I realized that only saw Fast as a single site, 300 clients. I didn't really think about it much bigger than that, and that's why my business got to, and this is where it's stalled. Hands up, it's stalled here for the last couple of years, and then that's because I only thought to that level.
That is so true. So like we opened in Cardiff all coming up to 4 years. And initially it was like, yeah, let's move to second and third studios as quick as possible. Life gets in the way. And then you're just thinking about, oh yeah, it's keep staff, keep clients happy, keep everything. And then you drift and you just drift. And then something Yassine said to me, I think it was last year, it was like, Dave, you've been at this same point with the same income, with the same number of clients for like almost a year. What's the point? And I was like, oh damn.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
second Newport now secured, moving in January. And like you say, once you suddenly start thinking differently about it, you then start doing the work that's required.
Yeah. So going back to like by working on your thinking, it it takes actual work, and I think that's why sometimes the breakdown in what that actually looks like is really, really where people go a little bit astray. Every single day on the Awaken Man program, Yassine or I will share a principle around success. There'll be a principle. It's like the time tested, like this is not something that's a woo woo kind of out there like, you should do this. It's like not a piece of advice, it's a principle. And like a good mentor teaches principles. And so what happens is you're layering down principles every single day. And it's like layering down reps in the gym. And when you need that strength, it's there. And the most important thing is that, and the guys that get the best results in our programs in the gym and in the Awaken Man are those who listen to the principle and go and act on it straight away. So going to behaviors, and that's the second part of this, is like thoughts, behaviors, is that when people go on in self-development, they actually pretty much do shelf development, I call it. They just literally like shelve the information. And I think I've been guilty of this in the past. Is like we read a book and we shelve it. Oh yeah, I've read that book. It was really, really good. It was really interesting. But what I've personally realized especially more so over the last year, is that I'm like rereading books like 3 or 4 times now. And we've, we actually had Barry Michaels, who's like Jeff Bezos' therapist, it came on to do a session with us, and he's helping like Jeff Bezos, Jay-Z, Gwyneth Paltrow, some of these biggest stars in the world who have accrued lots of wealth, deal with bigger problems, than we have. And we had a session with him, and you actually have to do the work on the things like, when you have a big goal but you get super scared about it. You're like, oh, I really want to do this, but I'm feeling really scared. Well, there's a tool that he teaches that it's just called a reversal of desire, where you actually pursue that uncomfortable, painful space. And he taught it on that call. So one of the things I'm getting here to get into here is that you can't um, just read the books. You've got to actually do the things in the books to get the results. And I think that's where the disconnect for a lot of people is.
Yeah, like you say, you've been to seminars. Maybe people are watching this, or they've followed some other stuff, and they start writing all these notes down. And then they go back home, and then that notepad gets put in the corner somewhere, and all that knowledge they've just learned has gone. But one of
Yeah.
the things from that call with the guy was quite good, where he said you'd come in after a hard day's work or something, and you were saying to yourself, "Yeah, I need to write tonight's email, or I need to do tonight's check-ins and everything," but your mind is telling you, nah, we'll just do it tomorrow, because you can just sit down and chill and have some dinner and watch some Netflix or something. And then the next day when you wake up, your brain's then angry with you because you decided not to do the tasks that you needed to do. And it was quite interesting, some of the stuff you were saying on that side as well. Yeah.
God, Dave, you enjoyed some psychology, mate. That was a breakthrough. Is a he was good, isn't he? Like the guy was just like the way he showed up and everything. But that's a big part of what I think I've discovered as a gym owner, uh, in like this part of my career. Like my 20s was about physiology, like teaching people how to get fit and learning business skills. Like 10 years of my life is largely been about psychology and finances, like that, managing my mind, and finding that, yeah, like, people like Barry Michaels, like that learning about the shadow has been something that's helped me just deal with the inner chatter so much better, because I can acknowledge those days where I don't want to do work, I don't want to show up, I don't want to get on the phone, I don't want to do prospecting, I don't want to call people, and I just have to put it in a box and say it's just how I feel. It's just how I feel. I can work through this, and having I had massive success towards him. I was like on a trajectory which was growing massively towards the end of my 20s, and in my early 30s I got divorced in a year. The gym went through massive struggles, and I don't feel that I had the coping mechanisms to deal with that. And that's what I actually I shrank. 100% I shrank, and I think that is where I realized I needed to go and do the work. And in all of that kind of shit show struggle, things not going well for the gym, personal life wasn't going great. I stopped setting big goals, and I didn't set any real big financial goals because I didn't have the emotional capacity. I stopped setting goals in my fitness because I just and that's what I noticed is that in the worst or the kind of the dark period, I'd call it, like, of my life, I was like, I just shrank and didn't set those goals. You know, there weren't financial goals, there wasn't fitness goals, there wasn't growth goals for the gym, and that is the period of my life where I probably struggled the most. And then having met Yassine, you know, his coaching, his mentoring helped me start to look at putting things that I really wanted to put in front of me again. And now I think I'm the happiest I've ever been. Yeah, I'm struggling the most as well. I struggle every single day, and I bet you do too. You know, we are in struggle trying to grow and trying to, but I I feel really I feel I feel a lot of enjoyment in that struggle. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
it's like the gym struggle. You know, you might be burning, you might be out of breath, you might be hurting, but you that deep seated enjoyment you get from that.
I think that's a key aspect. Like you said, that time where you were struggling, you were in a dark place. It wasn't until you met someone like Yassine. So if anybody is going through that dark place now, maybe they've just come out of lockdown and the gym isn't going in a great place, or clients are struggling or whatever, it is always good to reach out to people, have a look about your circle of connections, your network, and seeing who you can remove, see who you can bring in to inspire, motivate, guide, hold accountable,
Yeah.
just chat to, so you can get out of that place quickly. Because I'm guessing, like you say, that dark place could have led to some terrible places if you didn't get out of it quickly.
Yeah, and absolutely, it was, but like hindsight's a great thing, and one of the things that I did um, is that I shrank when I should have grown, and
Mm.
you know, going back to what we've been talking about all the way through, it's like all I did is I stopped making goals, and I kind of I think inside of me I was like, oh well, if I don't make big goals, if I don't push myself, if I don't go big, I won't, you know, I won't get hurt, and I won't make mistakes. I won't be a failure. I won't be humiliated. And that's what was going on in like in me. And so that's why the kind of the growth curve blunted for a couple of years. And that's it could be a story I'm telling myself. It could have been the reality. But all I know is on the last, say, 1 or 2 years, getting really clear on big fitness visions, big goals for me, my personal life, and continually making them bigger has inspired way more action and much better action as well.
Cool. Let's dive into, which is the last part, the actions. We've looked at our thoughts, we've looked at behaviors, and all this is great, but how do we action it, especially if this goal is so ginormous that it's like, where do you even start? How do you even get the ball moving? How do you actually start really progressing to that point?
Yeah, something I learned from Pete Taylor actually. This is like really good. So Pete's my business partner in the Awaken Man. He's a great action taker. And what's really good about Pete is that we will have a conversation. He's actively managing me. I've never been managed at Fastway to Fitness before. I had to manage myself. I've got a great manager in Pete and business partner. He holds space to manage me every single week. And the first of all is the action is do what you said you would do. And like, you know, DWY, SWYD, do what you said you would do. And any week where I've said that I'll do something and I don't fulfill it, the pain I experience is massive. I hate going on that call when I haven't done the things that I said I was going to do.
I got to
Um,
jump in there. That is exactly the same. And guys, anybody that doesn't have a mentor, this is the pains you should be feeling. So I've been with Yassine, and I look forward to chatting with Yassine, or like you say, your mentor every week. But an hour or 2 hours before the call, if I know I haven't done the tasks that I said I was going to do, I'm dreading jumping on that call, because I know he's not like angry, he's not going to shout at you or anything, but it's almost like that feel of disappointment. So if you do want to start taking more action and going quicker, definitely find somebody who is going to hold you accountable and make you feel a little bit uneasy because you haven't got those tasks done.
yeah, yeah, and that's that discomfort is the growth. It's like, oh, I cannot bear to have that pain. And so the actions is just, you know, freaking do what you said you're going to do. And like we teach it. We teach it in the gym. You know, when you say to yourself, "I'm going to start the diet this week," and you don't do it, every time you don't do it, you erode your confidence. Every time you do it, you know, every time you fulfill on your promises, make a promise, keep a promise. That's how business works. You make a promise to someone, you keep the promise, your business grows. But at the same time, it was that was the first one. It's like having the action of doing what I said I was going to do. The second thing is, it's another cliche. But it's like taking 100% responsibility for my own actions. And when I don't hit my targets, or when I don't get the results that I promised that I would get, I take 100% responsibility. I want to blame COVID for the fact my gym struggled this year. But actually, if I really, really, really took ownership and said I could have grown, that empowers me way more. Like, and I think that's something I'm learning. It's something I realized there was a massive gap, because I used to blame other things like circumstance, people, situations for things going wrong in my business. But what I've learned this year is that when I take 100% responsibility, and I was like, actually, I I ultimately have a choice here. That is when I feel most empowered, and I do the best work as well. Um, so that's another one. And then the final one, I think, for me is the structure that I've put in place to um, do things like be good every day, instead of having days where I'm lacking in energy and this like no one's got a motivation issue. Like, especially if you're a trainer and you've got a gym and you've got a good background in prescribing fitness and stress. Ultimately a personal trainer, we prescribe stress. And my opinion is that if you manage your energy optimally as a fitness coach, a trainer, as a gym owner, you should have energy all the way through the day to make hard decisions, to show up when's necessary. And that's something I've learned more so over the last 6 months, is that all I've got to do is make sure I've got the structure in place to prospect every day, to show up every day, to do the things that I find uncomfortable. And that is where the growth will ultimately happen if I keep doing that.
Mm. I think the structure one is key, especially for just all of us in general as self-employed business owners. Like, the struggles I've had in the past have always been, oh, I've got no clients now, I'll just go and just chill and relax. Whereas when you work for somebody else, when you've got a job, whether it's a desk job, whether it's for working in the leisure centre or at the shop, whatever, you have responsibilities, you have tasks, you have things that need to be done. If they don't get done, that job will fail, you'll get sacked. And like you say, Ben saying, you have to have like a plan, or like every morning I have critical tasks. These tasks have to be done before I do anything else in the world. I have to get these tasks done. Otherwise, things will start to go wrong quickly. And if you don't want your business to decline or stall or go the wrong way, just go the direction you don't want it to do, make sure you know your critical tasks, make sure you do the actions that you say you want to do to keep that progression moving. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Um going back to, a lot of it's about the thinking, I suppose. It's like keep challenging my thinking. Like, the reason I am at where I am is that the thinking I've used has got me to where I am. And so I've got to keep looking at how I approach certain, tasks, projects, struggles in the business, whatever you want to call them, and how I solve them. And that's what's great about I suppose having mentors and coaches, is that if they've actually achieved something incredible, they can see that 10,000-foot view of like, okay, you're solving the problem how I used to solve the problem. This is actually how you need to look at it.
Yeah.
And that's what having, I've always had coaches and mentors. That's something my personal development bill is absolutely ginormous, but I have grown way past the person that I was when I was 21 years old and opened a fitness business. So it's a really important thing to keep challenging the way that you think about the world and the things that you're doing.
Nice. Okay. So to finish, have you got any final tips or insights or tricks that people really need to consider if they want to start implementing these massive goals?
Um, I think what tips and tricks. Oh gosh. Oh,
Put you on the
that's a good
spot a bit.
question. Yeah, no, it's I'm happy to. So if you the the big one for me around like any big goal is having the people around me to support me when I go, when I used to have in my fitness career, I would have I'd have a masseur, I'd have a track coach, I had a weights coach, I had my mum who was like my nutrition at the time, and that was like my backroom staff, and like they helped me create create what I was doing. I was, really, I was performing really well. I think you also have to have that when you're in pursuit of a big goal. Is like who is such an important part. Like who have you got on the bus? And and that was even this year when we had the Kickstarters in. I always said to myself, we at Fast, we would never have like young, kind of 16, 21-year-olds. They're just not going to have the the personality to be able to come and take the fitness camps. And I got bottlenecked in there. And like we've got these four kids, I see them as kids. They're 18, 19. They're amazing. They're absolutely amazing. And my beliefs, my limiting beliefs around who we could get in to come and support the growth of the business was actually what was the limiting factor in and these guys now, the clients love them. And also what they love about them is that they can see that they're growing and being challenged as well. And they've seen like they've only been here for um a month, but they literally have gone from being twiddling their thumbs, looking at the floor, looking at their phones half the time when they first started in the first week, to now they're taking sessions and they're articulating really good take homes and stuff like that. So yeah, massive. So the who's important. And the second thing is constantly investing in yourself. But investing doesn't just mean the financial investment. It's the space in your diary where you're actually working on yourself and actually implementing the things that you're reading about and talking about. And that's a big one.
Cool. Nice. Ben, I appreciate it. So for anybody watching now who's like, wow, this Ben guy does talk a bit of sense. Yeah. Want to know a little bit more.
Is there some there? Yeah, I hope there's some there. Yeah.
How can people reach out, learn a little bit more, come and maybe join you and stuff?
Yeah. So the way that we operate, for anyone who's looking for coaching, mentoring, um, who's got a really, really big goal in 2021 and 22 onwards. We've got a program called the Awaken Man. It's run by myself, Yassine Dadabe, and Pete Taylor, and we help men and women unfuck themselves in terms of mentally. They say we help them get mentally healthy. We help them get really, really financially healthy, and we help them really create big goals. And we coach them and mentor them to get them there. That's it's a 1-year program. It's truly amazing. I'm actually in awe of what we've created. If that's something that you're looking for help, or you're looking, you like the sound of, just reach out to me on Facebook. Is a really easy one. Benjamin Owen on Facebook. And there's actually a group called the Awaken Man Project. If you're a guy who wants a space where you can just listen to other guys talking about some of the struggles that are naturally going to come up as you pursue these big goals, join the group and join the conversation.
Nice. Ben, appreciate your time today. Thanks for coming on. I'm guessing the people watching or listening will probably go back and start taking some notes again and probably be in touch as well.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that. It's really good interview. Thank you.
No worries. So that was Ben, and what an interview it was. Really gives you an insight into how to restart and remotivate yourself, and also how to set goals that are not too easy, not impossible, but ones that are really going to challenge you to be able to move your fitness business forward, whether that be to be able to sell it, take more staff on, have more units, change and move into a different industry. There's a lot of information to take from today's episode. But before I do go and leave you for today, if you haven't already joined us inside our free group on Facebook, simply search FitPro Lead Gen with Dave, request to join and get access to so much more that's really going to help you grow and move your fitness business forward. I'll speak to you all tomorrow. Cheers.